believe we are live. Just let us know down in the comments if you can see and hear us both. Someone's got to wait for adverts to go and stuff and get those out of the way. I believe we are live. So, hey Baker, hey Leah, hey Greg, hey Mess Up Girl, hey Kathy, hey Drond, hey Arizona, hey Steve, hey everyone. So, welcome to tonight's stream. Tonight, we've been joined by the devilishly handsome Ryan of AntScapes. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. And hello to everyone in the chat as well. And Baker, thanks for popping over from mine as well, mate. I appreciate you.
Yeah, he clearly knows yours. He's already thought that that you're a bit of a
nerd, yeah.
And that you like to wear the odd robe.
The odd robe.
Clearly watches your channel.
Yeah, Sadie has this thing where she says I wear robes, but that's because she assumes I'm posh, whereas it's literally just a dressing gown. I live in my dressing gown normally, so just in the animal room, I'd never put it on because it just absolute sweat central in here because obviously it's warmer than the rest of the house. But yeah, that started because of Sadie or Ants England. People probably know her by as well. I think some people have met her from the invert shows and stuff. But yeah.
Hey Ellie. That's all people come.
Hey Ellie.
Ramblings. Hey Ants England. Must have heard you talking about her.
Yeah. But your ears burning.
Hey Susan. Hey Derek. It's a ray when you wear it, possibly.
Hey, Ramblings as well. That's if Ryan wears anything. Yeah, there's also a thing that they all say that. Well, when we went to Ancon, we got very drunk one of the nights, and I'd fallen asleep in my bedroom, in my hotel room, but I didn't lock the door because I was too intoxicated, and I was sleep naked. So I remember I woke up, and I just looked, and B, or Liam, he's called. He was just stood there like, Ryan, it's already quite late. You need to get up. I'm like, oh, trying to cover my bits. Just hairy bum everywhere. Wish I'd never met Sadie and Callum. It's cost me a fortune in ants. Yeah, I bet. They're always really bad influences as well.
It's how it starts. Well, get into how it's. How did you start in keeping ants?
It was from watching a few people. So one of them was Ants Britannia. He doesn't really make content anymore. Hasn't for a year or a couple of years now, I believe. The other person was Ant Holifer, who I've now since met in person. He's been around here. Actually stayed around my house now, and also Nordic Ants. So Nordic Ants was a tank I'd seen, or at the time he was posting quite regularly. And he was doing like a lot of multi-species vivariums with different ant species in, and alongside or coexisting with other animals. And I always found that just like fascinating and amazing. And that's kind of what made me dive into the whole ant side of things, because I was always into aquariums, but never really looked at anything else, like your geckos, your dart frogs, and things like that, which I've now since got into. But obviously that's kind of what started all of it, really. I was always into aquariums and aquascaping, and then from seeing those videos and that inspiration, that's what kind of spurred me on to go and kind of make my own. The channel was always more to document me keeping them in the progress, but obviously it developed from there, and obviously then there's like a whole community of people, probably similar to yourself. You probably saw some or got inspiration from others. I mean, you're a zookeeper, so you probably had your own inspiration anyway. And your own things, but then you saw these YouTubers and people creating videos, and you thought, actually, well, I'm a zookeeper, But
yeah,
I mean,
things that that some of the things that you've done that is like totally can be used in zoos and stuff, and I mean some of your setups are zoo quality kind of thing.
Thanks, man.
And so, and we do watch Zookeeper Zoo watch various channels on building things and stuff, whether it be the likes of you, the likes of bigger channels like Serpa, like some fantastic enclosures for certain ideas for rock work and stuff. It's very, very useful. Things sometimes we think too big sometimes, and sometimes it's nice to actually see kind of do stuff on our scale of this is what we can that we can then go, oh yeah, we can do that for a tarantula, or we can do that for our leafcutter ants or whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's always, I always think with these types of builds as well, there's always quite a lot of self-doubt. I mean, I always doubt myself with everything, but we're almost critics in the work we do. And even when you post videos, I was always really, I mean, I haven't been as much recently, but I was always like really critical in what I posted and edited and how good the quality was, because I didn't have all these fancy cameras that people use. I just used my phone to film and then my phone to edit, really. So it's always
same here. Mine's all done on phone, edited on an app on the phone and stuff, and all done that way. And so, but it really, is sort of all you need to get started. And stuff, and like I say, documenting, things that you do, or what I've seen this interesting behaviour or whatever about stuff. And stuff. I mean, I need to catch up with some of your videos, but with some of your setups, the fact that you do various like monthly updates or whatever on an enclosure and stuff, and some of your enclosures, there's always something going on.
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, I enjoy the updates, kind of more than anything, really, because I feel like they're always easier to update and to provide the content, but also even for myself, it's nice to see that development. And when you initially make a setup, and things sort of start to go how you'd hope they would, then I always think that's the best part of it. Like I made that Dart Frog one, that River Creek one, and I didn't get to move anything in for about 2 or 3 months because I was having problems getting the setup sort of grown in, and just the biological side of things within the soil just getting developed. And then I bought tadpoles. I've raised those tadpoles to adults, which can take up to a year, and now they're laying their own tadpoles. And it's like that's for me is the best part of the hobby. Just that I've raised tadpoles, and now they're laying tadpoles, and I've always found that sort of the best out of everything, really. Just seeing things develop and come on how you'd kind of hope they would.
Absolutely. Great. Do you have a question from Darren about Dynamyrex gigas, about how they grow, and are there any difficulties in breeding them?
Okay. So you don't really breed them in a sense that you would need a different male and female from a separate colony. So you'd have to buy 2 colonies and then get them mature enough to then have alates. Alates are essentially the flying ants, like your males and your females. And then they would be able to, or you could potentially then try and reproduce with 2 colonies of alates. But I mean, meat ants themselves, gigas, themselves are a super, super cool species to keep. I've never kept them, mainly because of the price of them, but also because of the space. I don't have the space for a colony like that. But from what I've seen, is they can grow very big, like huge colonies, and they do take quite a lot of care, and they're quite inexperienced, or what you would call an experienced like type of ant to keep. But I think the main thing is not many people have got them past the founding stage within the hobby to justify spending the money you would to get them. And I think that's the main problem with them. But I'd always say to try them. If you've got that there or that money there and you want to try them, then absolutely, they're a huge species of ant, super, super fascinating to watch and super cool within how they work. And if that's something you want to do, why not? But personally, I wouldn't until someone's got like a super solid way of founding them and keeping them. I would probably avoid them myself for now. But maybe you could be the first. Who knows, Derek? Because I would love to see a huge colony of those. And if for the ant people here as well, if there's someone who's got that species really successful, then point me that way, because I'll be making sure I watch all of the videos of them as well, and the development of the actual colony itself.
And then just put it there, 400 plus just for a queen.
Yeah, exactly.
Serious change.
See, I was studying thinking it was like £200, so you can tell I haven't looked. I just see that it's really expensive, and I'm like, I avoid it because I know how much research as well it takes into actually keeping a certain species and having them really successful and sort of founding them really, which is the main thing about keeping the colonies themselves is founding them. So
No, so I think there's potential. Maybe AntScapes potentially that's what they had kind of behind their stand at seas. They sort of showed it because they're absolutely huge, aren't they?
they are,
Really,
yeah. I
really
think,
big. But like, I think they were like asking like something like 700 a queen or something, or 750 a queen, and it's sort of like, yeah. Like, and then, but it's like you can have
yeah,
a look at it, but they're like, it's like, yeah, no, you can keep that. It was
yeah.
beautiful, but and so it's like, yeah, they're very, very difficult.
They are, and like I say, I think until more people have success with them and people have found sort of bulletproof ways of keeping them, then I wouldn't really jump into that. Like I've tried to keep Ventors twice, and those are around £80, and I've failed twice now.
You just
So
correct me, it was a gig, I suppose, for £545.
545,
I mean, that's
yeah.
still
Like
so
my mortgage is a little bit more than that, and to me that is terrifying. Like my missus would kick my genital area clean off, so I wouldn't.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't. So I can maybe justify £100, but no, just that much is too much. So
Totally agree. Hey Andy, hey Amy, hey Ants Major.
hey.
Ants as a young colony and some for sale. But yeah, I think that'd be one that I'd be a bit wary of myself. Kind of.
Yeah, definitely. Hey Jack, how you doing, mate? Thanks, Major.
In terms of, I can probably imagine which species you're probably gonna suggest. But for someone who's perhaps thinking of, getting some ants, has never kept ants before, what species or what maybe few species would you recommend people look at?
I would always say try the obvious ones, which you know what I'm going to say. But
You go
honestly,
the garden black ant.
yeah, and your meadow ants as well. So like your Lasius flavis. But I'd always say something like Myrmica. The first time, because they are actually a really hardy ant. As long as you give them soil that's fairly moist, then they're happy. They will not complain, and they'll be great because they're a swarming species. They take food really well, sugars they absolutely love, and they're just super hardy. Similar to your black garden ants. Species like Mesa barbarus are always a really good species to keep at first, but the difficulty you have was when you first keep an ant colony is that you keep checking on them because you want them to do okay, and that's something you've got this new colony, and it's like when you get something new, you always want to keep checking on them. But with those, it makes it much worse in that ideally for a new founding colony, you need to just leave them alone. So like for myself, I already knew this because I didn't keep them until about a year in. So I just bought the colony, put them in a setup, which is just like an arid terrarium vase thing, filled it full of seeds, which they need, and just left it. And now, only 6 months later, I'm starting to see a lot more workers, some slightly larger workers, media workers. I don't think I've got majors yet, but that adds such a cool variety as well. Having workers that are of different sizes adds more interest. But I'd say messes, if you can be patient enough to physically leave them and let them do their own thing. Similar to isopods, they always say to leave isopods alone quite often. And now they're even saying do monthly feeds with isopods, whereas at first I was doing it weekly, thinking, no, I need to keep them fed, keep them topped up. And then, now I've turned to like every 2 to 4 weeks without a worry. And the colonies are doing better. So I'm not destroying the tunnels, moving the tubs and things like that. And, wherever they've made when they sell. So it's a similar thing with those, just leaving them be. And as much as you probably wouldn't want to. But like I say, it's the best thing you can do. So, I mean, I don't know. You'll probably know as well, Phil, yourself with other species, not ants in particular, but is there other species that like to be left alone massively that it kind of benefits them?
I totally agree with probably most, especially invertebrate, it's one of the things you tend to find very early on. So like if you mollycoddle them too much, they don't do well at all. They kind of so many species like be left, just left to whether it be millipedes, you set them up and forget about them for like 6 months. You're probably bred them, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but but if you're in there, every week, digging through, they're just not going to do well. And like I say, with isopods and stuff, set them up, forget about them, sort of thing, and stuff. And I said, it was always, feed them. But you kind of forget that actually, with things like isopods and millipedes and stuff, their food, the substrate is their food, sort of thing. So anything you put in extra, like veg-wise or whatever, is always just additional stuff that can just go moldy.
Yeah, that's true. I've noticed.
But it's one of those things, I think it's that thing when you get stuff that's new, and even to say, you have to remind yourself. Sometimes I have to remind myself. Well, this year I've got myself a starter colony of Venator.
Okay.
And so like, it's ending up and it's like, don't keep watching them, sort of thing. Leave them to it.
Yeah.
Make sure there's live food in the top bit, in the outworld for them, so they can help us as live food when they want it. But otherwise, leave them to it. Just make sure they're kept humid enough, and that's it.
Oh no, definitely. I always find that the hardest as well, leaving them alone, especially at first. You do get used to it, but I always feel like I'm just neglecting them. So
you do. But I think you get something that's new because it's new. You're like, I want to see it. I want to have a look at it and stuff. And there's that excitement of, I've got this new thing. I want to watch it. But it's important to kind of, remind you, no matter how long you've been into it with that, sometimes you need to take a step back, sort of thing, and let them sort of do their thing, and then you'll enjoy more longer. Bakersport get Maculatus.
Maculatus, yeah, that's a good shout, Baker, because they are similar to Nicobarensis, Camponotus nicobarensis, but apparently they grow faster than them. I've got them at the moment. I've put them in like an acrylic nest, first time with like a bioactive outworld, and they're doing great, and I've barely really sort of touched them in a sense that I don't bother them really. I check on them probably every week, 2 weeks in the nest, but other than that, I'm feeding 3 or 4 days in the outworld. And I saw that Derek as well, but he knows it's an expensive hobby when he's got his workers like 3, 5, 4K workers. I don't know where you're from, Derek, but it might be worth. Obviously, I don't know, so I feel bad. But if you've got someone from where you're from who has kept them, go to the people who are doing well. Like it's why I always ask Ants England, because Ants England has probably kept most of the species that I would keep. So if there's anyone I ask what they do with it, it's Ants England, because she's always been so successful with certain species, a lot of species, in fact, been keeping them a lot longer than me, and probably most people in the hobby. So, I always think it is very much copy-paste sort of area where whatever's working for someone else surely must work for you as well. So, like I say, if you do though, Derek, then just get the best advice you can get for people who have managed to successfully found them and get to them to that point, because it is a chunk of money. You can go on holiday to Benidorm for a week or something for that. It's like it's a lot of money. So just by the end of the day, I know it's our hobbies and our passions, but I always try and be as sensible as I can when it comes to these, unless I really know that I can probably do it. And even the Venators, like what you've got now, Phil, I failed with them twice, and believe me, I'm not going back to them until I've found an exact way and I've done it better. So how are yours doing at the moment? Are they doing good?
They got eggs.
Eggs. As long as they've got eggs.
So, fingers crossed, touch wood and stuff, they'll hatch out successfully and they'll raise the larvae successfully and stuff.
Yeah, no, to be honest, it sounds like you've pretty much got it now. As long as they're laying eggs, then you're good.
Yeah, it was all weird, like checking on one day, and they're all just facing one corner. Like, what are you guys doing? Why are you all just facing this corner? What is going on? And then when they move, eventually like moved away, because I got them in one of the SHQ cells with the LED lights in the nest.
Mm.
So like, every so often I was like, right, let's have a look, sort of thing. Like, you know, every couple of weeks or whatever, sort of thing. Let's just have a look, see what's going on in there. And it's like
Yeah.
they moved away, and I was like, what was that thing right in that corner? I was like, oh, they're eggs. Awesome, fantastic. So hopefully wait for them to hatch out, and then hopefully they'll because one thing that they didn't say, as other people have said in the video I put out when I got them, was they never mentioned anywhere about putting substrate in with them for the larvae to do their cocoons.
Yeah, that's true.
Say,
I think this...
but like enough someone saw my video was like, oh, put some substrate in, and I was like, cool, well, I'll put some substrate in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's pretty similar with quite a few species having substrate in and piling it around the cocoons and things, so it helps them properly like develop. And I think you get what's called like naked brood or naked pupae, which can obviously then they normally just die. But it is just like simple things, like you say, just small things or pointers that help everyone else, and
yeah, exactly.
Watch everyone else succeed and then be like, that's all I need to do. It's fairly easy. What was I doing from the start? Until we get there, But I know there's a lot of people now who are really having a lot of success with them. So I'll just be following their journeys, and hopefully I can sort of mirror it really with myself. But
yeah, it was just There's one I was kept on looking at them at seas. Like the only ants I've had experience with is Atta and Acromymex. So sort of dealt with sort of the specialist ones, if you like.
Yeah, and it's quite different as well, I guess, compared to most of the species. So you've sort of started off on like one of the higher levels of ant keeping.
Blow all these ones for they're only a $5. I'm gonna go all in on something expensive. But for me, it's the predatory nature of them. Obviously, being more of a tarantula, scorpion, centipede keeper and stuff. They kind of almost, when you look at them and the way their nature is, almost fills that gap in between them, kind of thing. So it's like, well, I've always got live food on hand. That's not a problem, sort of thing and stuff. So yeah, hopefully, that's what they'll do okay. But yeah, a few people's like, yeah, they are a harder species to keep. So I was like, well, hopefully
it should be all right. Yeah, no, definitely.
Hopefully it'll all go all right.
Yeah, and Rambling's there as well. He's saying he was the same with Venator, just waiting for like setups and things. And England's about the cocoon stage. That's great news. Hey, Callum, good to see you. But yeah. I mean, like I say, until it's a more proven stage or a lot more people are having huge success with them, I'll just wait and see what other people do. Just wait for that. So
it says they need sand and clay substrate.
Sandy clay, yeah, that's it. That's where I went wrong. I was doing it almost like tropical substrate KGB mix, and I should have done clay mix from the start. Really, bit of a fool, but we live and learn.
Yeah, you live and learn, and it's all kind of all part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's all part of the learning curve. So we did see it just up comments a bit. I think Diana asked possibly about whether you still keep millipedes.
What was that? Sorry.
I think where was it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, Diana asked if you still have your millipedes.
Yep, still got the millipedes. Still got all my millipedes. The only thing, or the only ones I didn't successfully get breeding, was the giant fires. It was after Ancon. I remember I'd showed them to yourself, and there was one other person who said, I keep buying these every invert show and they never do well. And I remember I had them for 3 months, and I saw massive piles of like eggs and where they've been laying the poop piles and stuff. And I thought, this is great, this is going really well. And then all of a sudden, just like overnight, all of them just one by one just died off. And it was over the course of like 2 or 3 days. I went to do a feed. I noticed one was dead. It just went from there. But those ones I couldn't get going. Those were, like I said, they were just called fire millipedes. I mean, that's what I had. I'd have to get the Latin name up because I have them, but not the central bolus. It was the other ones, the slightly larger ones, the black.
I think I know the ones you mean. The ones from Madagascar.
Yes, yeah. Those ones. Yeah, it was the Madagascan ones. So I filled with those, Diana. But my other ones are doing great, So I did something right with them. I just couldn't get those ones going. It probably was down to temperatures. I have the room at a steady temperature, but probably could have done with the extra heat on the tub or what.
If it's
I
the ones
don't know.
from Madagascar, from when I used to, I believe they like it cooler than a lot of species.
Oh, okay. So possibly not keeping it in the
So it
animal
might
room.
be too hot, possibly.
Yeah, that's it.
Possibly.
But,
yeah, I know when I kept the species back when I had the animal shed at my parents, that was heated, and I kept them on the floor to keep them cooler than anything else, kind of thing. And even then, I think it was a bit too hot.
Oh gosh, I'll just avoid those next invert show because I'm going to Barnsley at the end of this month on the 26th.
You are.
So yeah, I am looking forward. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
And she says that she blames you for her getting isopods.
No, to be fair, it probably does because I kept saying we need to get some isopods, or also as well I kept spurring her on to get bioactive setups for her ants, and then obviously the given thing is like putting your isopods, your springtails, and well, I'm glad I get other people into it as well. You'll know, like me, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing your isopods start to get or drop the first clutch or for the first time, especially like with my Hoffman Seggies.
It's the ones that are, that especially the high end ones, the Kabara side, the rubber duckies. When you see a baby rubber ducky, you're like, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Or baby lemon blue, it's like, yes. The other day I was checking my spikies, my American, and they're little tiny babies, and they're like, yes, I got little babies of those. Fantastic.
Oh wait, I forgot you got the lemon blues. Are they going really well then?
Yeah, they're doing well. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they've been breeding.
Dream species for me. Yeah, definitely.
And it's another thing where prices of isopods, you can go extreme with those. I was looking at Red Diablos literally the other day. Marulala Red Diablo. Basically knock Kabaras out the water with how pretty they are.
They do, yeah. They really do.
Like 15 of them is like £400.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not.
This is like that conversation we just had about those ants, those gigas.
It is.
I know what you mean, because there's some called Scarlet as well, isn't
spend £100 on some isopods. Sort of thing. Like, what you spend £100 on like 6 woodlice? Yes, I have. Sort of thing. So I spent £400 on these. Like that. What the hell?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, if it was if there was a foolproof way of getting them to just produce, massively, then you'd be like, well, it's kind of an investment more than anything, because I know you run invert shows or you go to invert shows as a store and you could sell these on, but if there was you might have it, and if you have the code, then tell us the secret. But it's one of them species which is super, super hard to get going, and to get it there is I can't afford £400, so I'm just going to avoid that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So, Makers Our Switch is definitely something I want to talk about. Is ask you about your multi-species tank and how many species you have in it.
Oh, good question. Well, just like in total, or is it just ants? If there's ants, I've got 3. If everything, probably like 30. I'd say. Yeah.
That's a good amount of species.
Yeah. I'm trialing something with them as well. I'm trialing aphids with them, so I'm doing it with every single colony I have. Trialing them with aphids and making aphid cultures and getting them going to then produce. But the thing that I get them going with, I've added to the setups, and it's a certain type of pea, and
So just
when I
pea
walk
aphid.
in the animal room, it just smells of peas now. So I walk in, it's like, yeah, it's just like, you know, when you smell that pea smell, I'm like, oh, I wish you didn't smell of this in here. Because normally you walk in, it smells of like outside, like the forest. No, just after it's rained, you go out and it's that nice smell. That's what it normally smells of, but you know, recently it's been smelling of peas. But I'd probably say about 30 to 40 species in here, you know, because I've got like about 8 isopod species alone, but then I've got 3 ant species, different beetles, I've got different worm types, you know, morning geckos, just all sorts of stuff. So it's definitely one of my favourite, but my favourite is still my trap jaws. Have to go down to them, and that tank's just got your fish and your ants, isopods, and some springtails. So you know, sometimes the simple stuff can be better.
Sometimes the simple, you know, simple, but you say simple, but that setup is another awesome looking setup though.
Thanks, man.
Down bay, because that's the one that you call the mountain, isn't it? Whereas
The mountain Haligarian, yeah.
Which is like is something else, and it's but you know you've shown it on your channel, and like most people would look at it and go, "Oh my god, that is so complex." Yet it was actually the way you showed it, it wasn't that difficult to build.
No, that's it. I think the main side to it is like just patience with it, because instead of trying to get it all done in a day, I decided that, you know, it'll probably take me a few days of, you know, close to a week of just gluing individual rocks. And I remember after 2 or 3 days, I got one structure done, and then I got the other side done, or started to build that up. And as I picked it up to test it in the tank, it all just like fell apart. And at that point, people probably, or some people might have just gone, oh, you know what, I'll just do this. It'll be easier. You know, so the only thing I'd say is just take your time with it. If it fails at, you know, first off, just keep going, take your time. You know, if you've got a vision in your head of how you want it to look, you'll get there. It might just take a bit longer, but you know, just take your time with it. And you know, that's a tank that I had sort of planned for a long time, and you know, it kind of turned out how I wanted it to turn out, and that was probably the only time I've ever not gone, I hate it, you know. With everything I've built, it's probably the only one I didn't say that with. You know, it still is my favourite setup. So, but yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. If I'd just say that, yeah, just take your time. Anyone can do it. It's just literally, it just absorb all your weekdays or, you know, evenings. But if you get there and it's set up, then it's, you know, it's worth it, definitely.
And you definitely feel like a sense of accomplishment when it comes together, and you're like, you know, you can sit back and go, "I've done that. I built that." But what I liked about it is that so many people would look at it and say, "How the hell do you get, you know, these you know, kind of rockscapes going on with plants growing out?" And you went so simple of, "I'll get some vases." And glue rocks around the outside of the vase, which is like,
I was struggling.
You know, genius straight that probably a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about doing.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember I was thinking of this for a while. I was thinking, how can I get these vases where it's like just I can build up islands with it and then do it this way? And I was looking for ages. And I was out with I remember I spent the day with my nephew and my niece and my sister, and she was just trailing me around loads of shops. And then I was in B&M's, and I remember I saw all these glass vases, and I was like, wait a minute, this'll work. And like it was just that, it like clicked in my head. I thought this'll work. And then yeah, I tested it out and it works. So yeah. So also Dan Booth, I see you putting in the chat. So Dan Booth, so you all know in the chat, he's a technician who works at my place, and every live I'm on, whether it's my channel, your channel, anyone else's channel, he always joins in and starts giving it jip. But I love it. But yeah, good to see you, Dan.
So you just thought, yeah, that he's the agent for AntScapes.
Yeah, he just types loads of random stuff in, says as I leave on a night, I go, hey guys, I'm out, and like turn lights off like that and stuff. You can tell. It's funny, it is good.
Liz, the internet has improved since Scott's live.
Yeah, definitely, Lee. I was actually saying this to Phil when I first joined. I said, "Is it clear?" I said, "Because I've been complaining to my to Virgin basically saying that it's always bad, and they sent me 2 boosters, and I'm hoping that since then it's working now. But I could never do lives because of it. Anywhere I went, I'd try and do lives, and it would never work. But they it was actually your advice. It was you, Leah, who said you need to get some boosters. So I rung up and just had a little whinge, and they sent me some boosters. So yeah, I'm glad I did that, to be honest. What moisturizer does Ryan use? His skin looks baby soft. I don't moisturize. And if you look close, Steve, these are wrinkles, and do I smile? See them crow's feet? They're definitely there. Someone thought I was 36 the other day, and I'm only 28, so that was pretty sad.
This made me jealous. Steve W's found too many baby white sharks in his colony. He's got Cabarrus white sharks. That makes me jealous.
Is AntScapes the guy that made an ant enclosure based on the Lost Mountains from Avatar? No, that was Ants Canada. That was Ants Canada, yeah. But his channels is amazing. He's gone more mainstream in terms of like to the wider audience, I'll say, as opposed to educating people what you do and the things that can go wrong. But some people go that way. So he's but he has got a great channel, and his builds are absolutely amazing. So I'd definitely go and check him out. Yeah, definitely.
So he's probably one of the ones where he's a channel that people come across perhaps initially if they're just getting into ants or searching anything, sometimes even anything to do with inverts. Because is he the largest channel for ant stuff?
Yes, yeah, he is. Yeah, I think he's like. I mean, I haven't checked for a long time, but I'd probably say like 3 million subscribers or something insane.
That's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane. But like,
yeah,
I haven't. I've watched a few of his videos years ago, but I haven't watched anything for a long time and stuff. But that's good. You see that, but that can be. He can act as a gateway to other ones, especially smaller channels, and like can get that bit more personal connection with kind of thing of like, oh yeah, these guys actually educating a bit more about this sort of stuff and not just doing this. And you see it with the tarantula, some of the big tarantula channels, and other invert channels and stuff, and the reptile channels. All the time, the real big ones are perhaps a bit more mainstream and not necessarily sort of educational.
Yeah, no, definitely.
4.74 million subs.
4.74. Shows how long I haven't checked for. But you're right, Happy. Yeah, AC is like that, the gateway. Yeah, definitely. It probably is a lot of old accounts, but at the same time, his content's very gripping. He very much reminds me of someone who's started posting more videos, not ants, but the guy's called Dr. Plants, and he's made a few vivariums. One of them's like a multi-species where he keeps morning geckos and vampire crabs in one setup with the springtails isopods, and he's done recently one on desert and arid setup. But his content very much reminds me of that because it's very, like kind of documentary driven, but it does really engage you. But at the same time, he comes up with a lot of really great facts about every single species he keeps in there. The good things about them, the bad things about them, and that's what you need as well. So if you are watching these videos, you're not only learning about how to keep them, but also the interaction they're having with other species as well. I find that super important. But yeah, Dr. Plants, if you haven't seen him, he's only got 20 videos, but every single one of his videos goes just massively viral. And he's at like 1.2 million of 20 videos. It's absolutely insane. He only posts every like 3 months or something. But yeah, it's mental. Sorry.
That's right. But so, in terms of what you're keeping, how many species of ants do you currently keep?
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, you break up for a minute there.
Oh no. Leah's jinxed me. 9
we heard up to
species.
8.
9 species.
Nine
Yeah.
species. And obviously, there's kind of certainly seems to be sort of a couple of different ways of keeping ants. Being someone, I only have experience with a couple of species, are very different. But sort of see some people keep them in very what I would call sterile sort of setups.
Yeah.
And then from what I've seen of yours are very much naturalistic sort of thing in terrariums with live plants and stuff and things. You know, obviously, is there a particular way for someone, just getting into it that you would recommend them go down towards one route versus the other? Are there pros and cons to both?
Yeah. I think the pros to something, or in terms of just starting up, I think if you go down the sterile route, it's probably going to be the best way. Sorry, Ryan. It's probably going to be the best way because, ultimately, if you haven't dealt with that yet, then it's just going to work. Whereas the reason I do it like I do is because I did so much research into certain things, like certain funguses within soil. For example, like funguses that communicate with plants and their roots. So, sorry, one sec. And you'll know about this as well, Phil. So, certain funguses within the soil, good bacteria which benefit plants as well. So plants that actually tell the funguses which actually tell the plants to close certain pores off at certain times. If they know there's a bad fungus or bacteria coming in, they'll communicate with the plants symbiotically and say, "You've got to close them off, man. This thing's bad." And in turn, the plant's giving nutrients and things to the fungus, and the funguses also sort of being that deterrent for the bad bacteria. So I kind of, when I sort of dove into that whole area of things, it was more that actually, well, why wouldn't the soil in nature kind of already contain all of this stuff? But it's very unpredictable, I found, within that, because you could take it from one area or one patch of soil where I'd think that soil looks perfect. It's a perfect soil for millipedes and everything I want to keep. However, it could have some bad bacteria, whereas this area over here could have the good stuff. So, it's hard to judge, but I have found, and luckily, touch wood, I haven't had any problems with it. But I have found that anything that I take from nature or any setup that I make from nature the soil tends to do better than the ones where I'm trying to keep everything sterile. But I don't know if that's something I'm doing wrong. But I've just found that it works a lot better. So, by all means, you can keep it sterile, but you've then got aged soil, which has developed all of this good bacteria. Okay, some bad, but predominantly good bacteria and aged bacteria. It's like when you first set up a fish tank, you would use 30% aged water, and you might put a sponge in from one of your filters into your new filter. A similar thing, you basically just giving it all of that time frame and that development that you've kept that set up for. So, I mean, I would say, there's not a true rule to it, but I would always say that, generally speaking, it's been okay for me, but I don't want to say people to do it because it might not be for them. So,
totally. And so, can't talk about new keepers should use acrylic and so on.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, I agree with it, but I also don't. The reason I agree with it is that if you're using sterile setup and you're using everything right, you're boiling your feeders, and for a fact there's no chance that any of your other colonies are going to get mites in them or bad mites for ants, then by all means, if you're doing it by the book and it's by the book every time, then 100%. However, the moment you start to you know, kind of cut corners, we'll say, and just crush the cricket or whatever you decide to do with to get the protein in there, that's when it goes wrong. And as soon as you do in acrylic setups, that's when you have a very slim chance of getting rid of those parasitic mites or bad mites, because you haven't got anything else. Now, obviously, there's a study recently on Myhesium brunium, which is a type of fungus within soil. Again, these things that you get out in nature, which prevents varroa mites attacking bee colonies. And this is something that's been done within setups itself, not setups, but kind of controlled environments, and however they work on it, and it's been proven to deter varroa mites from bee colonies. So going forwards, they might start to use this as a general thing to feed plants or certain things around the soil near the beehives. So it's a similar thing with ants. Ants are a social creature or insect, similar to bees. So will this be kind of the the thing that fixes it? I don't know, but I would always say if you're keeping in the correct nest where you haven't got that kind of backup, then just be careful with what you're doing, because if it's in an acrylic nest, I always do think it needs to be by the book. But I think when you cut corners is when it can potentially go wrong. But I mean that's only my opinion, though. I might be chatting rubbish, but I do a lot of reading outside of that, because that's what fascinates me, because I'm a big nerd. I'm a big dirt nerd, and that's something I would love to find out myself. Which fungus and which certain things within soil, actually get rid of these things that could be harmful to ants, and to have a solution for every species would be amazing. But like we have jabs every year, don't we, to prevent certain colds? Imagine that. I've got a jab for soil for ants to not get parasitic mites. I would find that more amazing than anything. But these are things that need to be found out, and would be awesome to find out, to be honest. But yeah.
So
Good story.
Good story. Long but good.
Long but good, yeah. Needs more dragons, doesn't it? Needs more dragons.
And he's still going.
He's still going. Yeah, honestly. Like I say, I get so, I always feel like I ramble with this stuff because it just amazes my brain. Just. Well, yeah, you're right, Callum. It definitely needed more dragons, didn't it?
So, but I think that's great, because that that just shows your passion for it and stuff, which is a great thing. So I would say never be sorry for that.
Yeah, I know. That's only for Callum, because he's he's just nasty pasty.
Exactly. We all know what Callum's like.
Yeah. That's why we love him. But hate him at the same time.
So, but that. I mean, I think that's all great advice. You get the same with obviously doing like lifeline setups for like mantids or whatever. And sometimes the term bioactive is used far too often when it's not truly bioactive.
What was that, sorry?
As I say, it's the same, same with like doing like live planted enclosures for like mantids and other things. And so sometimes people use the term bioactive when it's not truly bioactive. And where they just think that chucking in some springtails and a handful of isopods, all boom, is bioactive. So no, the soil is a filter.
Yeah, exactly.
Checking what microbes are in there, what this, that, the other. So some people say, "Oh, that's a really cool bioactive enclosure." That's not bioactive whatsoever, at all. That's just live planted.
Yeah.
It's just got some living plants in it. There's nothing in the soil to make that bioactive.
Yeah, like I've just put in plants in a bag of soil from somewhere, and there's look at this new bioactive enclosure. No, I completely get you. Yeah, absolutely.
Night, Amy. So, but going on that, it's not just ants that you're keeping. You say you're keeping. What other things are you keeping as well? Obviously, I know you have a decent amount of isopods.
Yeah, so I've got around 45 types of isopods. About 45 different types of isopods. I keep my dart frogs, so my poison dart frogs. Those are the Anthony Isabella. Anthony Isabella. And then I've got like all my ant species. I keep my giant Africans, your Passionoda grubs, things like that. So I haven't branched out massively into other things. I do want crested geckos. I've always wanted them, but those I've kind of kept on the back burner for now because I need to. This whole animal room, I've been meaning to move this for a while now because I'm supposed to be setting things up in the garage for the future animal room. My fiance, she wants this room into a playroom, so I haven't bought anything. Although I've got the vivariums laying around because I've been getting these from like Facebook Marketplace for like 30, 40 quid here and there, and good size setups as well. So I've got a few in the garage. I've got one in here, a couple down the bottom of my rack, but I can't do anything with them until obviously I get that done. And now because we've decided to get married this year, that's kind of on the back burner until the back end of this year. So it's been busy, but it's been good. But I kind of want more species now. I'm at the point where I am getting very itchy. I'm getting the itch to keep more things. So hopefully, I want tarantulas. I want a tarantula species. It'll be New World as well. I wouldn't want all that petrify me too much to start off with. But even then, like I'd have to get run that past the fiance. But if I was in the garage, I'd be okay because it's out of the way. So yeah. So like these things.
And I said sometimes for some people, having it in a different space makes all the difference sometimes.
Yeah, that's it.
If it's in the garage, it's not in the house, so therefore it's fine. Sort of thing.
But it's more understandable, isn't it, as well, I guess. But, I guess if I was petrified of spiders and then all of a sudden Joe's getting tarantulas and massive tarantulas, I'd be like, what are you doing? You're trying to kill me off. So I completely get it. But, yeah, until I can move things, it's kind of stagnant for me at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like Greg. So, I can't spot out his mini terrarium he done at AntCon last year. Now has a random mushroom in it.
Is it one of those yellow ones that end up looking like a nipple?
They always come up with, like, if you use Koya, don't they? Always come up in Koya stuff.
They do, yeah, they do.
Sort of thing. I just leave them.
I do, to be fair. I do, yeah.
Everyone panics about it. So it's all part of the cycle.
Yeah, mushroom. And if anything, it means your soil's good. Just leave it alone.
Yeah. It's very good. Everyone panics like, oh my God, it's going to kill me animal. It's like, there's no real evidence for
that. Yeah. Imagine that in nature. As soon as a mushroom pops up, everything around it just dies.
But here's what happens. Anne has asked, can we see your ants? Are you on laptop or are you on phone?
I'm on my phone. So it would be... I could actually, yeah. I'll show you... 1 second. I wasn't going to do this because I always... Not a yellow nipple, no. Okay. Frigid. But yeah, I try and...
a real good question here, actually. Is there any ants that can't be kept in captivity? Probably safari ants or soldier ants.
Okay, so from what I've seen, soldier ants, I think Callum's just mentioned that as well about the army ants. They probably
army ants
couldn't be, because I think someone tried to keep... Yeah, they're always on the move, raiding other colonies. But there was a certain species, and someone might remember, put it in the chat just to prompt me. Can't remember the exact name of them, but they're a super, super cool species, and they look amazing. But they got the colony to the point of where it was like 1 million workers, and they were having to feed them like half a cow every single day, to the point where they were like, we physically can't keep up the food.
That's intense.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like those types of colonies are just, you couldn't keep them in captivity, because if you try to, no matter what you use as escape prevention, they are going to get out. And not all species are like your Lasius, where they'll just be trying to hit the barrier. falling down. Some actually use each other as bridges and they climb across each other to reach certain points. So if you start getting, and army ants are a fine example of that. They'll just build a bridge straight up to the, whatever it is they need to get to, for them to know they can get out.
They are
so clever.
They are forcing you reckoned with. I don't know if you saw the story, and how much of it is true is another thing. That's why I say the story of the child. There's like a newborn child that got attacked by army ants.
I've heard that story.
In the rainforest, in the child that was just swarmed by army ants and stuff, and they were physically attacking this child, and so that is a horror film.
Yeah, just terrifying. Imagine you sat there just enjoying a picnic, and your child just started getting took away, man. Like, oh crap.
It's still you just feel like that's something that's still you just don't want that and stuff. And I think there's fun, kind of, part of the story. There was one story saying that this person had been, this child had been killed by the ants, but I think she hadn't been killed. I think they did manage to get away from the ants, but you could see the scars across and stuff from where the ants have been sort of, because they just take down pretty much everything.
Yeah. Well, they just got so many numbers, don't there? I mean, if you were trapped in a room with them, millions of ants, okay, you could probably squash quite a few of them, but they're gonna get you. Yeah, and that's a scary thing, isn't it? It's terrifying. It's like that question where people ask, where they say, would you rather fight, a man-sized seagull or 10,000 seagulls or whatever it is? I get asked that question quite a few times. I don't know why. I have been. But yeah.
But that's it. You're always doing it. So well, one's always easier to hide from.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got a point there. Just thought, if they can eat half a cow, then probably easily take a small child, which that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
If that was every couple of days, you're talking like with overnight, your child's being took away, and this is pretty grim conversation, but it's the truth.
But it's scary to think, you got all these sci-fi films, and something like that could actually be going on. Actually,
for real. Definitely. And there's like that video where 1,000 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck. Yeah, exactly, Callum. That's the one. Exactly, that's the one. Yeah, I got mine completely wrong.
But you get these things, all the time. And it's absolutely, everything insane. So also, his thought when Aniko's got out, she was right about her dog.
Yeah. Because and I know Sadie has quite a small dog as well, so it's true, because you never know, do you? You never know. They could just escape and go, you know what? Let's get this dog. Let's get him. So they are definitely a force to be reckoned with. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. That in numbers they are.
It's the numbers. That's what people don't think about, because as a predominantly tarantula, the scorpion keeper and stuff, people always what if one of those got out and you had to tell the others that probably wouldn't do anything. Run away, sort of thing. And if it was to bite or sting, or whatever, it would hurt, and that's probably about it, sort of thing. But when you got potentially thousands, if not millions, of ants, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's like saying, if I know they're not the same size, but if you had 1,000 tarantulas escape, then instantly that would be much more petrifying than the one, because anything could happen then. But yeah, no, I totally get you, definitely.
So that's cool.
But what about yourself, Phil? Are you going to Barnsley this year?
Hopefully, the plan is. I was hoping to have a table there, but I missed out on getting tables, and so my parents. So I might just be going up just as a punter, which will be actually kind of weird. Probably.
Yeah. No.
We'll have someone to duck away to, but
it'd be good to see you.
The current plan is to go up. Anyway and stuff, because I have the day off anyway, so it's always a good chance to spend some more money on things.
Yeah.
Whatever, on things that I don't need, but I do need.
Yeah, no, I get you. Honestly, that's the thing. That's why I always try and avoid going to mainly because of down south. But whenever I go, I'm always like, I need to buy this, even though I know I don't need it, but it's cool. So
That's it.
I
That's it.
need
I
it.
don't need this, but I absolutely need this.
Yeah.
It's like if I had room at BTS last year, I would have got the grandfather clock enclosure that Invert Mansion's done. So they literally took a grandfather clock and turned it into an enclosure.
Oh wow! Is that the guy who makes the? Every time I go, there's always like terrariums pre-built. Is that the same? Yeah,
yeah. They're always like quite funky. Various various designs inside them. Some of them are fairly standard, and then we'll do some themed ones of like with various toys in it or whatever and stuff. But yeah, they literally got they got a grandfather clock and turned into a big arboreal enclosure. Like, damn, if I had the space for something like that,
yeah,
that would be insane with some pokies in it.
Yeah, because it's the type of thing as well. I remember that clock. Yeah, it's the type of thing as well. You could keep like as a main feature or somewhere in your your front room or your main room. So it's always one of them things where people come around and be like, "What is is that?" But no, definitely, I'd love to have something like that.
That's it. Like, I've got a couple of that say there's two of them, and then Transfer Testing Close is now kind of joined team with them as well. It's just something very, very unique kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Harry's report, grandfather clock was amazing, which was because they'd done all rock work inside it, put LED lights in it, and the clock still worked as well.
Oh wow, okay. I thought the clock would have been like discontinued or something, but
the clock face still worked. They just made sure that the pendulums and stuff didn't swing, because it's like that'd be a bit dangerous sort of thing. So, they disconnected that, so it just sits there still.
Yeah. So how much did that?
They didn't actually sell it. They had it at the BTS to begin with. I think they only at first were asking like 200 for it.
Yeah.
And then I think they knocked it down for the Bristol one for like to 150, and it's all like that's really not bad for something that sort of size.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Was it like a full size sort of?
It was a small grandfather clock. It wasn't like one of the big ones.
Still, yeah, but, still amazing, isn't it?
It was like still like that's a feature point for most people, something like that.
Oh no, definitely, yeah, definitely.
But doing all terrariums, and that's another sort of thing that you've done a fair bit on your channel. And you do anyways, building mini terrariums and various sort of other terrariums. How did you sort of get into that side of things?
The terrariums was probably Serpa. We've already spoke about Serpa design, I know, but Serpa design was someone who heavily inspired me. So I was watching quite a few, which was MD, Fish Tanks, Serpa design, like I said, Nordic Ants, and all of these people were creating these terrariums. And then there was someone called, can't remember his name now, Jartopia, I think he was called. And he would make these like ecosystems, but in jars, like quite large jars, and he'd go out to a river ecosystem, and he'd get substrate from the river and then the water, and he document this over a year or something, and things like that to me were just so cool. And I think that's probably what mainly also got me into keeping or doing terrariums and keeping certain things, as well as the other content creators, the initial ones like Nordic Ants, Holifer, and Britannia, a few of those big ones for the ant keeping. I think Ants Canada probably had a big impact on me as well, actually. Thinking about it now, Ants Canada, I think, is, like Callum says, it is like the gateway into ant keeping, because the episodes are always so dramatic and focused on how ants kind of hunt and work, as opposed to the maintenance side of it and how to keep them. And I guess like the gritty details of how to keep them is, I guess for some people would put them off. Whereas if they saw a video of a fire ant colony going massive and eating cockroaches and stuff like that, then okay, that's going to probably appeal to, the majority of individuals. Whereas, it was never the gritty side, and that's when I found someone like Holifer's channel, and a few others who actually kept the ants, and they would explain how to keep them, the process of keeping them, what they keep them in, and that's how I kind of got more and dug into that side of it. But I'd definitely say Serpent Design was the terrarium build of things. The mountain paludarium, that one was something I'd actually had planned before I'd moved into this house. I always wanted to be like sea stacks, where you look out to the sea and you've got like a small bit of rocks that still stand, and you see like a small island on it, sometimes like little trees coming off, and it's still there, and you think, that's what I wanted to create, and that was always in my mind. But other than that, everything else is kind of impromptu, and a lot of things are quite similar to my aquascaping. Like my giant African millipede setup, that one was heavily inspired by aquascaping and how you would lay out certain spiderwood and bogwood within aquascaping. So, the different things inspire me from different areas. I like to watch someone called Biotope Gallery. Now his stuff is just amazing, and
I need to sort of catch up on some of it, but every time I watch one of their videos, it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, and he doesn't even speak on it. He just, it's just some guy just building these amazing things, and his stuff. If I ever need inspiration, I'll just watch some Biotope Gallery, because this guy posts regular, and it's all, because it's a business, isn't it? So this guy sells these setups to people, and every single setup is just flawless. And I think he inspired me probably to do my River Creek, or something similar to that, So I always think like different people always inspire in different ways as well, which is kind of cool. And like I say, I hope that I can do a similar thing with what I make, I guess. So, but yeah, and yourself, I've seen a lot of your videos, but more of your education, or how much knowledge you have as well. That's like something I aspire to have, all that knowledge. If I could take your brain and then Serpent Design skills, I mean, I'd be like very well rounded, I feel. But yeah,
it's all. I think but you already are. I think I was agreement saying that you already are. You're there already. The thing,
thanks.
I think it's Scott who, because it was Scott who Scott's the investor that introduced me to your channel. Back when I was sort of fledgling channel and stuff, and so. Oh, I think she's actually talking about whether Callum should be subscribed to your channel or not, maybe. Actually,
well, thank you.
But it's thing, and it's something that I tell people. When people are sort of, how do I go about creating? Oh, where we lost you? You frozen?
Oh, me?
No, you're back.
Sorry, it's because I'm. You know what it is? I've just realised it's when I check the comments. I needed another device next to me to not read them, but it's whenever you mention it, I'm like, I'll go and see what they've said, and then I do it, and it must pause it for like a brief moment. So it's probably my derp face, just like looking at the comments or something. But yeah, I always feel bad that I'm not replying to people.
So, but so I do the same thing. Or like if I'm, I watch a lot of whether it be Serp or whether it be aquascaping videos or Biotope Gallery, or any kind of that sort of thing. Little terrarium building. Was it Worcester terrariums, terrarium designs, and stuff. All these people as like see things and get inspiration for things like that's just a simple, very very simple thing. To more complex setups or whatever, whether it be within the zoo or within my own private collection and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always good to get those, to get different skills and to watch different skills from different aspects of keeping.
Yes.
That are transferable skills. Like, the aquascaping side of things is, it's always more advanced than what tend to do with inverts and reptiles and stuff, but that's purely because they've been doing it a lot longer.
Yeah.
And so there's a, but we can use a lot of their stuff, a lot of the stuff that's used in aquascaping can be used in that sort of thing and stuff, and
100%.
utilize what they do and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well,
Apparently you're very close to 3,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I am. I'm quite close. I think last time I checked, I was like 2984 or something, 2985. So pretty close. I mean, I haven't posted. I haven't posted for 4 months, and I posted a video a month ago. So, to still get the subs, it is great. But I just wish I had more time. Like I was saying to you that like I haven't even lives. I haven't done a proper live like this for 5-6 months, maybe it's a bit more. And I always get so nervous going on the lives. And it's just one of them things. I just haven't had the time. And then coming to do lives, it's always been like I'm always too nervous and sweating like a horse, which I am now. But I agree with the the different as well, different channels. They also give you better ways of doing certain things or doing things a different way. I've watched someone called Ferret Wonderland. Is it Ferret Wonderland? Yeah, Ferret Wonderland, and all of their aquascaping and waterfalls and different things they do was just using plastic bottles and spray foam. And this guy like carves out rockery with your spray foam once he's already put it in, but the end result is just phenomenal. Like, and it's just makes it look so effortless. All the other people as well, they'll say, oh well, I do this to get the rocks attached as one, which was that cyclolite and cotton wool. I was like, this would work for the vases. And then those types of things kind of it's like every time you watch a different thing which has that type of knowledge, it does open your eyes a little bit more and go, actually that's a really easy way of doing that. One of them was like getting jars without a lid, and then just putting literally like cling film over it and just poking a hole in it. It's like, why didn't I think of that? Like, just really simple ideas that you don't think of until someone else does it, and you're like, oh my gosh, as if I haven't even thought about that. And that's what I love as well about watching different creators. Obviously, alongside the the inspiration it gives you. So definitely say if you want to do something like that, then just watch as many as you can and hammer it for weeks, because it'll give you a lot of insight on what people do that works best, really. I think like Worcester Terrariums, he made the soil within terrariums very simple and very simplistic, because you would have tropical, you need 3 parts topsoil, 1 part sand, 1 part orchid, 1 part sphagnum, 1 part, and then whereas he's just like molar clay, worm castings, sound, and it's, he really sort of simplifies it for people, and I think that's what makes it more accessible as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's like I say, just watching different people is the best thing you can do, really.
That's it, and then giving it a go, sort of thing, and be prepared to make mistakes.
So, no, definitely.
With things, it's almost whether it be a little terrarium. Is this your first sober live?
First sober live. What are you saying, Sadie? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because like she says, I normally have like a beer before the live, and then I'll have one by the side of me just to calm my nerves a little bit. But I've been okay. You've done good, but Sadie, if you're asking. Yeah. But no, it's true. Like I do get so nervous. But yeah, she's right. It's probably one of my first sober lives.
I remember when I first started, coming out, completely nervous doing live streams when I first started doing lives and stuff. And
yeah,
now it's like, oh, I'm okay now with it, sort of thing. Well, if you want to build natural setup, you can purchase kits off AntScapes. Even does FaceTime walkthrough for a small charge. Great experience. I built one with him.
Yeah, she did. So I do sort of virtual aquascaping, I guess, guides, and I'll be there with you for however long you want me there, and we'll go through, we'll do the build together. So I'll give you
your website in the chat along with the my discount code.
Yeah, drop that code. Phil gets stuff. Someone used it recently, actually. I think about 3 people in the last couple of weeks have used it. So
nice.
It's been, it helps me, and obviously I'll give back to you. So I'll have to tell you the amount and be like, what do you want? So no, it's great, and reaching out to people, it really does help.
That's a new one. Go sub to that one, guys.
How did you know, Steve?
Steve knows all. He finds these things out. He's clearly your top fan on that one.
Yeah, I hope so. He's always sending extra money through Cash App.
Is he the top tier?
Yeah, top tier. Don't know.
Callum said he didn't tell him.
I didn't tell him. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting it's pausing every time I look at the comments. I should probably go and get another device somewhere, and my drug dealer burner phone,
We have multiple devices going. It's like I've got it all going on my phone and stuff, but it comes up on here quicker than it does on StreamYard.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have it like that, just in case, especially if anything important comes through. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
something like that, but yeah, I didn't know it paused me. To be honest, every time I checked the comments, I wish it didn't. So I was here. So if I press chat, does it now? Am I still normal now?
You're normal. Well, as normal as can be.
Okay. Yeah. So if I just have the comments up this way, then it doesn't pause it. So that's good.
So he's got a normal phone and an AMP phone.
And an AMP phone, yeah. So I've got my phone, which has a better camera to do the recording, but then I also have my old one, which is like super run down. It's all smashed the screen, but that one just literally is there to record time lapses over 2 days, 3 days or something. It's never charged. I just plug it in when I want to do a time lapse, which is very rare, and then I'll just do a time lapse, and it's always poor quality, but it gets the job done. That's all that matters. So.
So in terms of maintenance wise, especially with things like your last sort of multi-species enclosure and the sort of the mouse enclosure, how much sort of time roughly does that take, a day, a week, or whatever, to maintain these setups?
I'd say time in hours, I wouldn't know, because I don't know if you're like me, where you'll sort of go into your animal room or what you're keeping, you'll just do a general check, and if something needs doing, you'll just quickly do it, the smaller stuff. Whereas every week, I'll probably do a big, maintenance job, where it's probably more like an hour or two, and I'll cut plants down, give them a really good misting, top up any water levels and tanks that need topping or water changes. But I'll do every month, and I'll do a massive one where I'll do my filter cleaning and changing in our trap jaws, and I'll just do everything as a mass, just absolute chop down of all the plants, and sort of then repotting them all on. So, but every week I'd probably say maybe it's 5 or 6 hours in total, everything included. And that's the odd time where you go in and you'll start a new aphid culture, or I'll feed some sugars. I'll go, they need some more sugars, or that's been in for maybe it's a bit too long, that one, so I'll quickly change it over. But that'll only take me, say, 10 minutes, or rehydrating nests or spraying things. But I would say about 5, 6 hours max every week. But the longer you've had the setups, the less work they take, especially with your bioactive setups, I've noticed. Although the plants do start to grow, once they've grown in, they'll grow a bit more, but other than the plants, it's never really a huge thing with maintenance once they get going. But you probably notice it yourself. It kind of balances itself out. And my multi-species one now, I'll just make sure I've always got a pot of jelly in there for the beetles. There's plenty of dead wood and good substrate. And then I'll drop in an apple as well, so there's not too much competition over fruit or sugars, especially with the ants. And then the food for the geckos, so quickly fill up the rapashi things with, the like banana-y stuff and a bit of calcium in there. And that's all it is. Just it gets easier the longer you have them, I think.
Yep.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, again, it's something that sometimes puts people off for the wrong reasons. I think, these kind of large enclosures that are life planted with all this and the other going on, that that must take so much maintenance, that must take hours a day to do, and it really doesn't.
No, they're probably the easier ones. It's similar to like aquariums. So we're just saying, like, the bigger the aquarium, the more volume of water, the less problems you'll have. It's very, very similar with bioactive, and this tank is probably, I mean, it's the biggest one I've had for 2 years. And I probably, if I had the money, I would love to get more this size, so it'd be less work. But I don't have the space. But I'd always say if you can go bigger, then do that if you can, because it is going to help you in the long run. If you, and as well, it's less likely to have problems because you can have a massive variant of substrates and different things that they would like. So I'd always say to try and go as big as you can, but it's just the space, isn't it? But no, I completely agree. But what about yourself? Do you find it's better with more age setups, or do you find...
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it comes to the point where sometimes the only real maintenance you end up doing is, say like my dart frogs at work got, I think they're in a 900 litre converted aquarium.
Oh, wow, okay.
I done for dart frogs at work. The most maintenance they tend to have to do is every so often, probably about once a month, is trim a load of plants down, take a bucket load of plants out, cuttings out. But I try and do it where I've then got the time to hopefully some of those, propagate and use for other enclosures at work and stuff. So it's like, it's 3 plants, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's very, very, very little maintenance I actually have to do with those and stuff. And I've got an enclosure. It's growing in. It's been growing in for the past few months because I like, when I set up one, especially if it's live planted, I like to leave it for a few months before I actually stick any animal in there.
Yeah.
So I've got 45 by 45 by 60 to extra terra that's all live planted up. That eventually will be a mixed invert tank just in my living room and stuff of millipedes, isopods, and beetles, and maybe some other things, sort of thing. But it's just going to be inverts in there, nothing else. And stuff. But even just for that, I'm allowing it to grow in for a few months before I actually stick anything in there.
Yeah, no, it's the best thing to do. So how do you often? I mean, you might not, but do you, when you're like cutting plants down where you work and things, you're doing your maintenance, do you also, like, how tempted are you to take the cuttings and bring them home to like grow on yourself? I don't know how it works, but presumably they'll get some like super cool plants in for the enclosures. And you'll think, I haven't got
Not
that.
necessarily. All the plants we use are very, very basic plants. And so I use very, very basic plants for the setups at work purely because I've got to have it that it's not just me who looks after it, but I've got to have it so that if volunteers do anything, then I'm not going to ruin stuff.
Yeah, that's true. See,
and I mean, that tank I pretty much solidly do, but I know in some others where I've done that, life planted at work is, as much as I can. Volunteers will either over water plants or they're underwater plants. Another thing. So most of it's pothos. Another thing, because if you kill pothos, then plants aren't for you. You put pothos in the tank, you can't kill the pothos, then life planted is not for you because you shouldn't be able to kill that.
No, definitely not. No.
So a lot of it's Trisandia, and so it's just all basic stuff. I would love to be able to do more expensive plants, but that will only be with my own stuff. If I feel I really, really want to.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And stuff. I'll say this: what can I convince you to get leaf cutters? So Ryan, get some leaf cutters.
I can't right now. Like I said, the space. I know I've been saying this probably for 8 months now, but I just can't. I'm in a bit of a limbo stage, and once I've been married, my life's ended from there. No, I'm joking, obviously. But once I've got married this year, things will be able to be better. But then even then, I'll have to, save again. And until I have the space, I can't do much else. But I've still got a few projects that I've got going on now. A few different things that I've got going, but I can't do much else until I've got the space to do it. And I mean, like I said, I'd love to. I want, I'd love like ball pythons. I want tarantulas, different things, but I can't do a thing, which is really frustrating. And leaf cutters, especially, they're a species that I would love to keep. And I've done so much looking into how to keep that plant volume up. And I found like mustard. Mustard is a very easy plant to grow, which will they grow massive, huge leaf quantities as well. So I will probably, so I've looked into it, believe me, but I just don't have the space, unfortunately, Sadie. So, but just another tip as well. If you ever go to like plant or garden centres or whatever, and you in like the tropical plant aisle or in B&Q or whatever, if you see the leaves on the floor or the stems of like succulents and plants, just put them in your pocket, and then you can take them home. You can take them home, and you can actually get plants from them. So if you're being a cheapskate like me, then just a small tip: make sure you're unseen. But if there's a leaf on the floor or a stem or something snapped off, or you've walked by accident, of course, then make sure you pick it up and put it in your pocket, and take it home, and then you've got the plant for free.
They've got the floor.
The floor, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you walk by and it's already on the floor, then then it has to be picked up, right? You're just helping them out.
Yeah, I'm just tidying up for you. So, imagine a colleague of mine at another zoo, he was it for ages, kept nicking plants from their zoo's reception area. So they do all these, the zoo would do all these lovely big planted, things of tropical plants at the reception area, and they would go and nick the plants and put them into the reptile village, and then be like, "What are these plants going? We've got to get more plants," because they wouldn't buy them for it, so he just nick them from where they were buying them for.
Wait, so these are like they weren't taking cuttings; they were just picking up the plant.
He was just taking the whole plant from the zoo reception. He was like, "I'll have that."
That's brilliant. So at least mine's discreet. It's not like I'm just picking up a giant plant and running out with it. That's mint. That's class.
So, enough. His boss was, promoted him, sort of thing. I was like, that's you got introduced to that kind of thing.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, they'd buy him. Yeah, like I say, for the reception, saying like the entrance of the zoo. But so he was just sort of that. Oh, how to go and do that?
I wish I had that confidence. To be fair.
But then, I would say I'll do similar here, but it's more a case I go around the park collecting things, foraging for things.
Yeah.
Like going into enclosure, going, I like that bit of moss. I'm going to take that bit of moss. Stuff. Or I'm looking forward to tomorrow because it's been quite windy today, so I'm hoping tomorrow around the sort of more wooded areas that a whole load of twigs are falling down there covered in lichens, hopefully. So we're going around going, right, I'm going to collect these for the millipedes and stuff, because they're only going to get raked up and put on a fire anyway, so I might as well have them.
Yeah, may as well. I mean, I was going to ask that, actually, in terms of when you harvest, so say your lichen or your moss, is there something that you would do in particular to make sure it was sterile, or kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier? Or
I just chuck it in.
Carefree with it, really?
I just chuck it in.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes you can soak it, can't you?
I kind of bit, with leaf ends. I find especially some of the stuff I keep, whether it be fruit peels and stuff, you sterilize it. You're basically going to kill a lot of the goodness out of it.
Yeah,
stuff that's in there, and a lot of the nutrition out of it. And things like various fruit beetles, part of their diet, as well as eating rotten leaves, is eating the mycelium of the fungi that are breaking down those leaves.
Yeah.
And you go and boil that or stick in the oven, well, you're going to kill that fungi.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And so that's why I look at it in the same light. You know, if you pour boiling water over twigs of lichens or stuck those in the oven, it's probably going to kill the lichens off. It's going to make those go. Well, it's going to turn them into powder essentially. So most probably.
And anything good inside the twig as well?
It's gone.
The branch it's on, yeah.
It's gone. So I don't really sterilize anything and stuff because it's all, you know, take it in. That's what we do in zoos and stuff all the time. You go and take, there's actually a lot of goodness in there that we potentially want for stuff.
Do you also have the issue where when you're with people and you forget that you're like weird, but they're not? So you'll say, "Oh, have you seen that moss going up that tree there? That must be like 100 years, 200 years of development and stuff." Do you? Are you also one of them where you'll point out something in nature where you're like, "Whoa, that is just years of stuff." I always do it with Joe, and she'll just be like, "Oh, for God's sake, just carry on walking." I'm like, "But look how high it is up that tree. That's just years and years." Yeah.
You know, that's absolutely, you know, it's, you know, or like, you're like, oh, look at this mossy rock. Look at this, you know, this log that's here covered in moss. Oh my God, I need to take a photo of that. Like, what are you doing? Sort of thing. What are you doing? Like, you know, or, you know, for me, like with fruit beetles and stuff, it's like, oh, look at just how nicely rotting that log is.
Yeah, it's just a perfect log. Just a perfect log.
Amount of rottenness.
Yeah, it got to the point where I was like, we would go for a walk with a little, and we'd go through like the what's called near us is called Fairy Dell. We'd go through there, and there'd be like a lichen branch on the floor, and I'd miss it, and Joe would go, "All right, do you not want that?" And I'd be like, "Hell yeah!" And I'd just pick it up and put it under the pram, just at the bottom of it, and just like when I get home, I'd be like, "Oh, we've still got that twig," you know, and I'd just get it out and think, "Oh, what can I put it in?" You know. It's got to the point now where Joe's like, "Have you seen that log with all that lichen on it?" But yeah,
yeah, absolutely. But it's one of these things that, you know, these things of whether the sterilised or not the sterilised, you know, it does divide people. I mean, Dad's parents has freeze it, and some people very much, everything has to be frozen and stuff. But I tried that years ago and never ever had success with that. With anything, so that's why I don't with freezing like leaf litter or twigs of lichens and stuff and sterilise and stuff. I never ever had success with that, and stuff. I would find out that would cause a lot of crashes in my stuff, so that's why I completely stopped doing any of that.
No, that's interesting actually, because recently I've been freezing like giant sacks of like leaf litter. Obviously, it's the time of year, and I mean the isopods are eating them. I mean, I haven't had any problems, but it's good to hear, because I think the only thing about having it with isopods is the chances that there's probably already isopods or something within the leaf litter that
there's going to be other stuff in there, yeah.
I think that's the only thing that could go wrong, and that's what I've always thought. But I've always freezed it because it's kind of like I guess the general consensus of, you know, keeping isopods, like make sure you freeze it, make sure you oven bake it on a low heat for, you know, an hour and all this, or microwave it. And if anyone asks, I'll just say yeah, but generally I don't really do it myself. So like you say, you think,
I was doing it, and then literally was at the like terrestrial invertebrate working group conferences and stuff, you know, which is a whole bunch of zookeepers that are invert specialist zookeepers. And so when I was asking them, they went, "Yeah, don't." Sort of thing. It was like, none of us do that. Sort of thing. And so when like even like, you know, one big zoo I was like asking them about, you know, in terms of substrates and stuff, they literally all they would do, they would gather up all the fallen leaves from their wooded area, put them in ton bags, leave them outside, and they literally got whether it's left for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and that's sort of, and they just go, we'll just take it straight out the ton bags from whatever year we want it, from whatever stage, sort of thing, and that's it. Or we'll just go up to our ancient wooded area and collect it and put it straight in.
Yeah, no, that's really, really
thing.
cool. And I guess it's more like reassuring for the people who are so worried about it. That really you probably don't need to do much with it to have it successful. Because I think for a lot of
But
people,
I mean, I'll give it a bit of a, I'll give stuff a bit of a wash, just in
yeah,
in cool water, you know, and so I'll give it a bit of a wash, I sort of pick through and stuff, but a lot of time, I will just go and grab, big handfuls and stick it straight in sometimes, and sometimes it depends, honestly, my Cabaris I definitely pick through, sort of thing, because I don't want anything invasive getting in with my Cabaris.
no, definitely not. Is the rubber duckies and your lemon blues as well?
Yeah, the Panda Kings, so,
Oh
but,
no,
they're all doing well.
yeah,
And
definitely.
so, but things like the death's head cockroaches at work, I just shove everything in there, and they sort it out, sort of
Nice.
thing. You know, I like to put the lichens in, as fresh as can be, and they're normally cleared within a few hours,
Yeah.
sort of in a strip there.
I was actually going to ask you about that because you've just mentioned them, but with roaches, dubia roaches, presumably you breed them or have like a culture of them.
Don't have them at the moment at all.
Do you not? Ah, fair enough.
No,
Just because
but
I wanted to start
I
a
have
colony.
done.
I've got some, but sorry.
I have kept them, but yeah, I don't at the moment.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I've had them for about 6 months, but they seem very slow, and I don't know if it's just something I'm doing or, I'm never too sure, but I've seen people
It's
keep
one
them.
of the, again, it's one of the things that you ask 10 people and you could get 10 different answers, sort of thing. And
That's
what
true.
works for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else, sort of thing. And Chris Zoo on Wheels, he's very successful with his tubias,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so he's got thousands and thousands of them, kind of thing. And so in a way he does it is actually not a way that I would be even allowed to do it at my work, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The way he does it is completely dark. That they're completely dark, and stuff. Whereas, um, within my work, nowadays we're going down more and more the route of that even invertebrates, that all invertebrates, regardless, need to have access to UV light.
Yeah.
And so with live foods, our live food room, there's UV lights in our live food room for anything live feed wise. We now have to provide UV for it.
Oh well.
And so, based on research that's come out and stuff. So I would, it's not something that I've necessarily done privately, but something that we're doing more and more in the zoo world is providing UV lights for everything, and it's going into the invert world as well now.
Yeah. So I guess then it's just providing the same care you would for geckos or anything else, isn't it? It's just because it's a feeder, you're assumed or a cockroach, you're assumed they're invincible. But really, if you are wanting to get them fully happy, then then maybe
Yeah,
it's
it came out with a lot of research has been done and found that live feeder insects will actually produce their own vitamin D3 and good levels of vitamin D3 when they're exposed to
oh,
UV.
okay.
So it's just making them a healthier food to feed out to, for reptiles and mammals and stuff. And
Yeah,
then sort of it's got stem from that. And then it's like, well, hang on a minute. If it makes them healthier, does it make other invertebrates healthier?
yeah.
It's
Begs
still
the
a long way
question.
to go with that research. A long way to go. It's very early days.
Yeah, yeah.
But within the more and more, we're going that way and just going, well, we'll provide it.
Hmm.
So, like, our mealworms have UV, our crickets have UV.
I do find it like interesting as well that there's not that much research behind it really.
No,
Um,
I know. And more needs to be done.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, I mean, locusts, that certainly doesn't surprise me because locusts love to bask. And so, you put a light over a locust enclosure, they're up there trying to get the heat and the light.
And Callum there's saying heat and oranges, or oranges and heat, as well for roaches. I've got heat for them, but I haven't tried oranges because a lot of the stuff I do keep, like my worm cultures and stuff, they hate anything citric. So I've always avoided that. But to be fair, it makes sense with with
Yeah, occasionally
orange.
I'll give oranges, tangerines, or whatever. Occasionally to roaches. Roaches do love them, sort of thing. And they'll devour it, and you'll be left just with the skin and pith very quickly.
That's cool.
Sort of thing. Same with Macromimex. Every so often, not very often, it's every few months or whatever, I'll give them a tangerine. Enough, and they'll devour that. They'll take even all the peel and pith, but then pretty much everything's gone.
Oh wow, okay. That's really cool.
They'll take that all to the fungus gardens and start moving that around in the fungus gardens.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people try quite a lot of different things with them, which has been good. But I haven't seen oranges done. But I've seen like people just putting cabbages and stuff like that or whatever. That's obviously kind of expected with cabbages, but I think there's a few things that I've seen done, and I'm thinking as if that even works, but it makes sense. It makes sense. But I didn't think citrus would work, so that's really cool.
Yeah, again, you don't want to give as a regular thing.
Yeah.
It's or not. Our colony's still a fairly young colony. When they're mature, they can be kind of more regular. I know some zoos that for their rat or their Achomimex, they'll literally give them big baskets of fruit as well as leaves, kind of thing for them. I've seen some insane things. I've also seen footage of one zoo where they had them in their restaurant and they managed to they got told that they won't be able to chew through the silicon seals on the tubes and stuff, so that it's perfectly fine to put feeding stations on people's tables in the restaurant until literally had footage of leafcutter ants nicking people's peas off their plate and taking peas back to their fungus guard. They're like, we've got a problem. There's leafcutter ants nicking people's lunches. So
people are complaining, yeah.
Sort of thing. It was just like, leafcutter ants walking off with peas or with a bit of lettuce and stuff. And I'm like, what's going on?
That's brilliant. If I was sat there eating and they had that type of setup and they were taking the pea off my plate, I'd be like, you know what? Well done. You can keep that pea.
It's just really because, the company that was behind them, it's all there. Like, I've been assured by the person that's installed that they won't escape, and all the keepers they will at some point. The leaf cutters, they're gonna, the way we keep leaf cutters, in zoos, they're gonna get out at some point. So if some are gonna, raft across, they're gonna do this at the other, and they're like, no, we've been sure it'll never happen. It's impossible for them to get out. And sure enough, within months they were getting out, and just causing havoc. Oh dear.
Yeah, because. And again, like I've always been told with ants, they can't chew through silicon because it absorbs the pressure. But then, there's ant species that can. Someone mentioned earlier, Derek, I think it was, who mentioned that Barbarus can chew through concrete. We know that Scutellaris and certain other species can chew through wood quite happily. So, and hot glue. So why wouldn't they be able to chew through silicon? But I've always just been like, oh yeah. That's good. Maybe that's the way forwards. No, it makes sense. They're all saying I'm the only person who doesn't know about oranges. That's true, actually, because I do use normally just apples. We always have loads of apples in with everything, so it's always apples or bananas. But I need to start using oranges. Maybe it's more, but I don't suffer with mite problems as well. I know some people use oranges as well. Unless you use chew through hot glue.
Yeah, just so they can. Unless you chew hot glue.
Yeah, I think quite a few can, to be honest, get through hot glue, which is worrying because 2 of my setups have the lids on with hot glue. So I'm hoping that I can keep them at bay for a little bit longer.
It's always been, I didn't know they're going to test us. All these things, they're kind of set to test us. And stuff.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, is there a species of ant that you currently don't keep, but there's perhaps your ultimate ant that you would love to keep if you could? You know,
it probably would be leaf cutters. Yeah, I'd definitely say leaf cutters because just how cool they are. Either them or it would be weaver ants.
Yep.
Not pollies, but the proper weavers, we'll call them, the proper ones. But again, they're super expensive and at the same time super hard to find and very expensive. So similar thing, just green weavers. I'd love to keep those or leaf cutters. But I'd probably choose leaf cutters because I've seen quite a lot of people have them successfully, and so for me it'd be more stem towards the leaf cutters. But I would, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you keep yours. Obviously, traditionally now people keep them in the pods, but in the zoo, for example, and I've seen this before as well in other zoos that the leaf cutters they make the fungus balls as well within the soil or underneath the soil. So
yeah,
obviously, I would just create a bioactive setup and have your traditional tube coming out to somewhere else. So I know how or what I would want to do. But yeah, like the colonies I've seen at zoos and stuff are just fascinating. The size of the biggest workers you can get, and it's just awesome. I would love to, but like I say, it's the space and I guess the time for now. Actually.
yeah. It depends on zoo. I mean, ours is a very old style enclosure, which I wasn't allowed to change. And it's literally it's very very simple. But essentially, our fungus got which has got the one fungus going at the moment is in a glass cube. Sort of thing that's on top of a tile,
Yeah.
basically, with a little dip. There's a little dip in the tile, which their access, and then it's got ropes on top. They go ropes to feeding platforms, kind of thing. And then they're just all set in moats, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but then places like they've mentioned Bugs UK Park. They've got theirs in soil. I think it's Marwell. They had quite a big one. I think it was after Cephalotes they had, where they had it quite a big, kind of in soil. But then where they had a couple of different feeding stations, one that went into another animal's enclosure with a feeding station inside that enclosure, so that it looked like it was a multi-species enclosure when it wasn't, sort of thing.
Okay.
And then another side where it went into what then looked more sort of scientific and sterile, but it was all part of the same system.
Okay.
Sort of thing. It was like that's really interesting. That like they went through to this live planted area where they could literally they had plants planted for them to just graze at their leisure.
Yeah.
Thing. They're like, we just replace those plants as they deplete them and stuff. And then an area where they would go and it was the more sort of sterile looking sort of setup, but it was all the same setup.
Oh, that's cool.
And stuff, which was sort of interesting. Somewhere else. I'm trying to think. Can't remember the name. Maybe Five Sisters up in Scotland, possibly. I don't know. When they were setting theirs up, I think again that was Atta, possibly. They were setting the nest itself. I think was in a 10-foot long by 5-foot deep by 8-foot tall enclosure just for the nest.
Wow. Can you imagine? Imagine just having that as like just a tank to have a multi-species set up in. Like, amazing.
And they were just with soil. They didn't put it all the way up to the top. They sort of had like a good 5-foot deep depth of soil kind of thing just for the fungus gardens, and then they had ropes and tubes and stuff going all the way around their sort of reptile house, if you like, sort of thing, with multiple feeding stations around the building and stuff and stuff like that. I mean, it was pretty impressive, but that's something else.
Yeah, that really is awesome. I've heard as well that they can. Sorry,
I was just going to say, but that's the difference between keeping Atta and Acromymex.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I've heard that they can the difference is one can tear a tree down in a day, and one can probably do a shrub.
That's it.
So,
Well, that's it. Because when I first started here, we had Atta. Then when we lost that queen after 15 years or so,
mm.
and stuff, and it was like, oh, need a new, go and put a lot of that gun. And I kind of thought I wasn't going to be allowed to have leaf cutters again, because of obviously how you get hold of leaf cutters and stuff. But no, you got to have some leaf cutters. I was like, well, if having leaf cutters again, they need to be acromimics. I was like, because the enclosure you have for me is not big enough for Atta. So I was like, it's got to be acromimics because they're a lot more. They're just as cool. They may be a slightly smaller ramp, but also they don't do quite as big colonies. And they're like, oh, we need the big guys. Like, no, it's still do a big enough colony. We're still talking hundreds of thousands. We're not talking millions.
They'll keep growing. Don't worry.
Sort of thing. They'll get there. It might take time to get them to the point where they're a nice, big, impressive display again. But they're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Because again, sometimes the thing of sometimes you do want that big impressive display straight away, but of course that comes at a cost of, one, it's more expensive to get hold of, but two, you're not going to have it as long because they've already perhaps a good few years into the Queen's life.
Yeah. Plus, I always find it better getting anything from a juvenile if you can and seeing them grow up, because even my Asian forest scorpion and anything I keep colony-wise, apart from my rugs, because it was the first one and I was worried I wouldn't do it right, and everything I've got from just a queen and a few workers, and I always find it best that way because you do get more attached to what you're keeping. It's like if you were to get a dog, you can still get attached if it's an adult, but I always feel like if you were to get a puppy, you'd probably be more attached. I don't know, but I find it similar within anything else. Like my Asian forest scorpion, Rocky, we had him since a tiny juvenile, and see him now in a full mature adult male. It's just it's a nice feeling that I've got him there. Like we were saying earlier about the tadpoles and the dart frogs, it's the same thing. But no, you're definitely right with that. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's coming up to 5 to 10. So the time has absolutely shot past again. Which is
bloody.
It doesn't feel like 2 hours.
It definitely doesn't.
But yeah, conscious I've got working on, and you've got your missus and young family going on. So we'll give it another sort of 5 minutes. So if anyone has any last minute questions for Ryan, we'll obviously have to have you on again at some point.
Oh no, definitely. Honestly, mate, it's been great, and I haven't felt as nervous. So my sweat probably tell you different, but no, honestly, man, it's been great. It's been great chat. It's been a while, like I say. So thank you for kind of get me back into this whole thing. So I do appreciate it. Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Well,
and everyone who's tuned in as well.
If anyone for some reason that's watching is not subscribed to your channel, is to go over and subscribe to your YouTube channel and watch your videos, as well as to go on Instagram. So, are you on other platforms as well? Do you do TikTok and stuff, or
I'm on
not really?
TikTok, but I don't really do anything on there. I probably should.
Okay. I haven't done anything on this for a while.
Every
so often I'll post up something, but
no, I just, like I say, I kind of left that side of it on TikTok, but just YouTube, really, Instagram, and then my my online store, and that's about it, really. So yeah.
The Sadie's asked, have you stood up for the whole 2 hours?
Yes. Well, I haven't moved from here, have I? So but yeah, I've been stood up. I always do. I'm on a unicycle, just rocking, imagine the whole time. That would be impressive. But yeah, it's been great being here, man. Honestly, thank you. And yeah, I've been stood up the whole time. It's what I'm used to. I always stand up because if I sit, I know I'll get a bit lackadaisical, and I'll just be sat there chilling, and I get too relaxed. So,
Phillips asks, is there any species that you would love to keep if money was no object?
Yeah, but then it's also the space, because I would love Mesa cephalotes, but I think they're like 200 odd quid. The Gigas, but again, I couldn't keep them because they're like impossible. If I had money to choose a certain thing, it would just be a really good breed of, I think probably like a python, like a, it'd probably be a snake. I probably want to spend most on a snake. I had a snake when I was younger. I got it from someone, and I had it for about 8 years, and she passed away. So I'd probably love to have a snake again, but like a super expensive breed of snake, or gecko or something like that. I think that'd be probably what I'd spend my money on. Ball pythons or something like that. But yeah, but definitely. But, I mean, what about yourself though, Phil?
It's a difficult one. I mean, there is money being no object. There's so many species, like whether it be, Mariana isopods that are just amazing looking, but like, super expensive.
Yeah.
In terms of, if I got back into, if I moved out here and had a place where I could keep reptiles, there's all sorts of reptiles I'd love to keep that, that some of them are expensive, some of them, like kill-bellied lizards are just amazing looking things.
The monitor would be awesome.
Various monitors and tegus and stuff, if money and space was no object.
That's it. I think it goes more down to space as well, doesn't it? But money-wise, yeah. And it's Sadie a snake. I know I do have a love for snakes. So, and
just whether you're AntScapes. So
I know, and snakes. But yeah, it's true. I know, but I would.
He'd get funnel webs. Good. Steve said if he could afford and had the space, he'd get a girlfriend.
No, then you wouldn't be able to afford them. That's the thing.
Things to do that you can't afford your animals.
Yeah. As soon as you've got a girlfriend, you'd be like, right, animals are gone. So do what you're doing, Steve.
So cool. Well, I think everything. So we'll say is thanks to everyone in chat for joining us tonight. My next video is coming out on Wednesday publicly, which is going to be a scorpion pairing video, so mating scorpions.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a fairly long video because I decided I didn't want to edit the footage that I got from the scorpion, so it's a fairly lengthy one, but you get to see absolutely basically everything that they do in terms of their mating behavior and stuff. So that's coming out on Wednesday. And so, have you got anything coming out video wise sort of soon at all?
No. My next video will probably be in around 2 months' time. The reason it's so long is because I currently have 2 designs that. See, that thing that happens is I get a sudden idea in my head, I write it all down, and I start planning around that. And similar to like my trap jaws, so it'll probably be in like 2 months' time. I already have the concept. I think it'll work good, but again, I just need to give it a bit more time. But probably about 2 months' time, I'll probably have a new video, but it'll be a new species and new setup and things like that. So, but nothing recently. For me, I guess these lives are probably things I'd probably do most of, for the foreseeable until I get a little bit more time behind me to edit and do all that sort of thing anyway. But
no, that's totally understandable. Hey, Max.
And with a wedding coming up too.
Yeah, big plans. Lots of planning to do. Sort of thing that's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So, but yeah, thank you very much, Steve.
We're going to have some scorpion porn on my channel. I think it's not one last thing to do is for us both to say, peace and love, and we're both out.
Yeah, but we can't because the way time.
You can't really smash because it takes a while to. It will take a few seconds for it to actually stop.
Yeah, we'll have to get like a pre-recorded next time where I just smash it and you just press play or something on there. That definitely work best. Yeah.
Anyway, cheers for joining everyone, and we'll say good night. So, good night, guys.